Hello everyone, this is my video for the TED Talks, and I will be discussing with you first about Sir Ken Robinson's video that was entitled Do Schools Kill Creativity? It was a great speech that he did and I really enjoyed it. The first question that I'm supposed to answer about this is, what is he trying to communicate? Now, I believe he made himself very clear, and it was a very compelling speech actually. He states that we have a responsibility to change the education system to better care for and foster the whole being of children, rather than just certain aspects of their minds, but rather their whole minds and their bodies as well. After that, the next question is, what tools did he use to do this? Now, the tools that he used went over really well, I thought. He used a combination of humor, using stories and lots of statistics, and I'm quite amazed that he was able to remember all those statistics, and it was pretty interesting information. I think the stories came across very well, and this will kind of lead into the next question, is why do I think his speech was so effective? The usage of stories was very important, I think, because it really brought a personal touch to his speech, which I think the audience appreciated. I certainly appreciated. And I think that the humor that he used in his speech was also very effective, because it broke the ice in the beginning for him, and it kept the audience engaged with him, and which was very important for conveying his message, because it kept them from losing their thoughts on something else. It kept drawing them back in. So I think that was very good and very compelling. Then the next question is, how does he connect with his audience through humor? And I believe I kind of just answered that question, but I can kind of go into detail about it again. He was very efficient in his usage of humor, and then I noticed at parts when the audience didn't engage as well as he wanted them to certain jokes that he made, and he tried to pass it off with making new jokes and kind of re-engage them even when they were not engaging in the first joke that he tried to use. He was trying different things with them and trying to find the areas that they would engage with him more. So he seemed like a pretty good speaker, and I was really impressed by his speech. Anyway, thank you. That's the end of this TED Talk, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, this is part 2 of my video for the TED Talks. The second speech that I watched was by Chimamanda Ngozi. It was entitled The Danger of a Single Story. Now, the question that we have to answer for this particular speech is, how does Chimamanda Ngozi make her points? Well, she makes the point of basically she says the impressionability of people via a story. So she's talking about, in particular to young people, she used a lot of examples of making this point by her own life stories about experiences that she had with other people and her own impressions of other people, where she had kind of created this singular dialogue in her head about people based on what she believed about them, and then she said that she experienced this herself later on in life. So she drew several lines together to kind of bring the speech from the beginning to the end. She used several different stories and examples in it, so it was interesting. So the other two questions are, what are TED Talks and what purpose do they serve within our communities? What purpose do they serve to our communities? TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design, and their company's slogan is information worth sharing. Now, how I believe this ties into having a purpose for our communities is, after watching several of these videos, they seem to bring to mind issues that are very important for all of us to discuss, to be aware of, and to share with each other. So I think that's the core of the reasoning behind TED Talks. So the next TED Talk that I watched was by a woman named Iman Muhammad, and she is from Palestine. Her story was called The Courage to Tell the Hidden Story, and I found it very interesting. She is a photojournalist living in the Gaza Strip area, and she documents the lives of women and children and a more emotional side of the Palestinian area that you don't normally get to see. So the way she made her points, she used a lot of stories. She obviously showed a lot of her photos because of her photojournalism. She discussed at length how dangerous it was for her to be doing this as a woman. And what was she basically trying to communicate was that she feels it's a very important and often overlooked aspect of their lives, and that despite death threats and actually being left in an active war zone by her colleagues, she is not afraid to do this because she feels it needs to be done. So I thought that was very emotional and powerful. The tools, again, that she uses to communicate are her pictures and her stories that she relates. She relates the story of a man who had worked his whole life and finally managed to build his family a house, and then about a week later, I think is what she said, it got bombed, and so the whole building got destroyed. So she managed to capture an image of him right after that happened, so that was very emotional. How do I think her speech was effective? I found it very effective by the use of the visuals. I think that was a really important part of her speech, and it makes me realize how that could be very helpful in your public speaking endeavors. So the next speech that I watched was by a woman named Alyssa Miller, and her speech was called How the News Distorts Our Worldview. How she made her points, she decided to lean heavily on facts. Just let the facts speak for themselves, essentially. She used a lot of visualizations, and she used a lot of humor in it too, which was pretty effective in reaching her audience, I believe. What was she communicating? That basically Americans have a very distorted world view, and it is increasingly singular in its view based on what the media is reporting. So essentially what she said is that the media in the United States is reporting on mostly American, North American news stories, and it's because it's simply cheaper to do so. This video was made in 2007, so it is a little dated, but essentially the only other coverage that was really seen anywhere in the world was in Iraq. So given that time period, that would make some sense. As I said, the tools that she used were through visualizations and facts and humor, and the audience responded to it very well, and I liked it as well. Again, she was very effective in her delivery. She was very short in her speech, and she didn't really need to say too much more. She got her point across very nicely. Hello everyone, this is my final TED Talk speech that I'm going to be commenting on. It is by Philip Zimbardo, and it is entitled The Demise of Guys. What he's trying to communicate in this video is that men and boys are falling behind women at an alarming rate. He says that they are doing this academically, in the business world, as well as physically and emotionally. He thinks that this has a lot to do with a digital addiction. He likes to term it arousal addiction. He believes it's due in part to boys and men playing a lot of video games. I think he quoted about 10,000 hours of video games played by boys through their adolescence and teenage years. He said that the majority of this time that's spent is in isolation, away from other people. So he says that these boys are not getting the proper social interaction that they need to. And the main point that he makes in this is that it's something that should be of concern to everyone. He doesn't offer a solution, and in fact his speech is very humorous, and he leaves it to the audience with a call to action. He says you need to be concerned about this. He says boys need to be concerned about this, parents of boys, parents of girls, women, everyone needs to be concerned about this situation, because boys and men are vastly drifting away from the understanding of how to interact with other people. I found his speech very efficient, and I really enjoyed the humor that he pretty seamlessly incorporated into it, and he ended pretty well. I encourage you to watch it because it's pretty funny. Alright, thank you for watching all of my TED Talks commentary, and I hope I can see yours all soon.